So just as a challenge to myself, I kind of wanted to model this. This is another thing that manager sent me in the same vein that he sent me the paint sprayer. So I think I want to model it really quick. Now this is going to be a challenge because I have a 2D view with a sort of a front view right there, but the front view doesn't like extend to the triggers or the magazine or the stock or anything, and it doesn't include the sight. It doesn't include anything. So I'm gonna have to sort of figure out what I'm doing. There. What I think I might do is sort of make the whole shell triangular except for this part. Like this section right here, I'll make sort of more square, if that makes sense, and then I'll just have I'll have it intersecting with this section, which will be a triangle, and yeah, that's not to scale either, but that's fine. So yeah, this is gonna be a challenge, but I think it'll be fun. I also wanted to go through sort of what my process was for setting up references and for figuring out how I'm going to do them. So let's hop over into Autodesk Maya. If you don't have this, you can get the educational version. It's free, but you can't use it for any commercial products. So keep that in mind. But if you just want to learn Maya, it's not bad at all. So the very first thing I'm going to do is create a polygon plane. I'm going to go over here to the inputs. I'm going to change the subdivisions to 1 and 1. That makes it so that it's just 1 square instead of 10 squares. Well, 100 squares, since you multiply. So then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press E to open up my rotate tool. I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to look over here in my inputs. So I just rotated it a bit, so it's no longer at 0, 0, 0. I rotated it in the X, so I want to continue rotating it in the X exactly 90 degrees. Which works for me. So I'm going to press W to switch to my move tool. You can see that the move tool is backwards. I'm not sure why that is, so let's find out. Over here is where, over here is where the move tool actually is. If you double click it, you can open up the settings for it. So the axis orientation is object. I want to change that to world. There we go, that's accurate. Close that. So the next thing that I want to do is turn on grid snapping so that it, when you move it, it snaps to the grid. So I think this is grid snapping. Yeah. I'm just going to drag this over here. Okay. Scale it up. So this is an interesting question. How much do we want to scale it? Also, why is the scale mode in object mode? Switch that to world. So obviously I can just make this huge, but we need it to sort of fit the aspect ratio of the image that we have. So how do we want to do that? Well, let's hop over here. Let's go out of full screen really quick. Let's see the image. The image itself is about 3,000 pixels by about 1,300 pixels. So if we say a ratio of 30 to 13, give or take, that should be fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to scale this back to 1. So scale, that's X, scale X, I want this to be 30. And then scale Y, I want this to be 13. Did it not do it? That's strange. Okay. Okay. I'll be honest, I don't know why it's doing that, but it's alright, we can work around it. So the next thing we need to do is apply this image as a texture onto this. And the way we do that is by going to Panels, go to Save Layouts, go to Hyper Shade Perspective. So now we've got our model here, and we've got our textures right here. So the first thing we need to do is create a Lambert. This is basically a texture file in massive quotes. We're going to double click it to open up its properties. We're going to go to color. We're going to hit this little box next to the color slider. It's going to open up this little create render node thing. We want file. We want to upload a file. So the next thing we need to do is get an image name. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go over here. Whoops, I'm going to get out of full screen. I'm going to copy this URL. I'm going to see if it works here. I don't know if it will. It's not. Okay, so I need to download that file. So I'm going to pause this really quick and save it. Okay, so I've selected the picture and I put it into this Lambert right here. The next thing we need to do is assign this Lambert to this mesh. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold down the middle mouse button, we're going to drag, and we're going to release the middle mouse button onto plane 1. It's not showing up. Why is it not showing up? Let's find out. So there is a thing here. I think it's this one, where it's show textures. Click that, suddenly it's got a texture, and look at that. We're good to go. So now, it's roughly to scale. It looks a little weird. So you can resize it if you want to. This grid's getting in my way. I can't see through it. So what we can do is we can turn the grid off with this button right here. That makes it a little easier to see. That looks just about right. Okay, so the very next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn the grid back on, and we're going to need to start actually making this. So the question becomes, how do we want to do that? Because that's kind of an interesting question. So the way I did it with the paint sprayer is that how do I want to do this? Okay, so let's go to the modeling toolkit. Let's do this the exact same way I did, where is it? It's Quadro. So I need to go to an orthographic view, which you can do by clicking this button, turning on the texture, and then hitting spacebar to maximize the window that your mouse is in. So you can do that with any of these windows. So what I want to do first is this sort of main side piece. So what I'm going to do, turn off that because I don't want them to snap to the vertexes of the grid, because the grid is not accurate enough. So this takes a little bit of planning, if I'm honest, which I'm not doing if I'm completely honest with you. Okay. Ooh, I don't like that. Get rid of that. I don't like that either. That's not bad. So then we go to this. That's probably fun. So then it goes all the way over here. What am I looking at? Okay, so it's just this bottom line. So we want it to stop right here. Shit, okay. Get rid of both of those. And then it's good to go. Okay. So now we have a couple of choices to make. So this, I'm thinking, is a clasp that goes sort of on top of this. It's sort of like a metal holding bracket. So I want this to be complete all the way across. So what I'm going to do is put one right there. And then I'm going to hold shift and click in between all of those so that it forms a polygon right there. Then I'm going to move this up very slightly so that it forms a more regular polygon. The next thing I'm going to do is add a point probably right here, right about there, so that I can make a box there. So what's after that? I think if I make a polygon there and then another one right here, I can switch back into something a little bit more normal right there. And then from here, I can go right here, make another square underneath that. Okay, so I just covered over this section, but I want this to be a hole. Or do I want this to be a bracket or a hole? I don't know. Let's have a look at the model really quick. So this is the slide right here. This is going to be an indentation in this sort of shell with the bolt extruding outward. This, therefore, looks like a structural bracket, or maybe some Picatinny rails or something like that. But the point I'm trying to make for right now is that we don't need to touch it. We don't need to worry about it. It's fine. So what we're going to do next is put another dot right there and seal it up. So I'm basically going to work my way across. Actually, that might be it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So now we've traced out roughly that shape with a little bit of jankiness in the center, but it's pretty alright otherwise. So what I want to do is sort of get these a little more even, mostly because it bothers me. Okay. So let's turn on X-ray really quick. X-ray can be found somewhere. There it is, X-ray. Yeah, so this lines up pretty well. I don't see too many problems with it. And it's low poly. Low poly is a good thing to be keeping in mind. So let's go ahead and turn X-ray off. Okay, so the very next thing we need to do is switch back into move mode. Go into object mode by holding right click and dragging over to the object mode icon. So, okay. Alright, let's get out of this view. This isn't helpful anymore. So the very next thing I need to do is figure out how wide I want this thing to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to face mode by, again, right-clicking, hold right-click, drag down towards the face button. I'm going to select everything by double-clicking. And then I'm going to go to mesh. Is it extract? Where do they keep it these days? Mesh tools? I don't know. Let's find out. By using the find menu over here in help, find menu, you can enter in exactly what you want. I want extrude. So in the modeling toolkit, which I'm in, you can go to edit mesh and then extrude, or surfaces and then extrude. So edit mesh, extrude, it's right there. I'm stupid. So I'm going to hit extrude and it's going to pull up this little extrude menu. So this is just like a normal move gizmo that I was using earlier to move this face, which I should put on a different layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag it out like that. And you notice it turned black. That's not supposed to happen, but it's an easy fix nonetheless. So I want that to be the widest part of the entire gun, right? I want this to be as wide as it gets. So thinking right about there. Yep, that'll work. Okay. So pressing Q to go back to the move tool, I'm going to double click to select every face, and then I'm going to hit my little normals reverse shortcut. If you want to know where that is, you can go to help, find menu, and then I think it's reverse normals? I think? What's it called? It's called reverse the normals. Okay, I found it. Mesh display, reverse. Or if you go into here, you can just search reverse. Mesh display, reverse. There you go. So that's how you fix black faces. And the black faces aren't actually that bad. It's just that the normals are inverted, so it's showing up as sort of inside out. So just for fun, if I zoom in on the inside, you can see that all of these faces are black when you look at them directly. That means these are the inside of the mesh. And all these gray spaces are the outside. So that's it, not that complex. So let's go ahead and switch back to object mode because I need to do a little organization because I'm kind of getting lost at the moment. This is human IK. That's not what I want. That's not what I want. That's not what I want. This is what I want. This is the layers menu. So first things first, I'm going to create a layer. I'm going to name this reference. Yeah, I'm just going to name it ref just because I'm lazy. So I'm going to switch this to visible display type reference. There we go. I don't know why you can't do that from here, but you used to be able to just click visible. That's weird. So I've switched this to a visible reference layer. So what I can do is I can select this object, right click here, add selected object, and it's a part of this reference layer. That means that I cannot click on it anymore. There's nothing I can do to click this mesh. I cannot interact with it at all like I can with this one. This one I want it to be put onto a layer I'm going to call finished mesh. I'm going to have this be a normal layer. It's going to be invisible because I don't want to see it. One last thing I need to do before I get rid of this is I need to change the center point because the center point right now is out here in the middle of nowhere, right? So what you can do is you can go to center pivot. And again, you can use the help menu to find center pivot. You can use the help menu to find pretty much anything. Basically what it does is it changes the center point of the object to the center point of the mesh. It takes all the points, it averages them out, and puts it in the middle. So pretty easy there. From there I can just right click, add object, and we're done. So Now the inevitable question is, what do we want to do now? And honestly, I'm not really sure. I'm thinking I should do the triangular barrel, just so that I can get a sense for how that sort of looks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my quad view. I'm going to maximize this view so that I can see the texture. I'm going to create a triangle. I'm going to... How do I want to do this? I'm going to go to create, polygon primitives. Prism would work. Okay, so let's see what a prism looks like. Well, for starters, it's wrong. It's in the wrong axis. But other than that, it actually looks pretty good. So what we can do then is just take this. We can rotate it like that, and then to make sure we get exactly 90 degrees, we just change it in the channels menu. So from there, we're going to go back into our normal view. We're going to scale this thing out. I might have to scale it a bit too far. Drag it back. That's about right. And we're going to make this taller. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to grab the center point, because that'll scale it in all three Ooh, wait, no, I don't want to do that. I need to go out and look at this in a 3D view. So what I want it to do is I want it to scale upward, and I want it to scale outward in the z-axis. So what I can do is I can grab this right here. This basically means scale along a plane, so it'll scale this way in the y-axis and it'll scale this way in the z-axis. If I were to select this plane, for example, down here, it would scale in the x and the z. So it would go like that without going up or down at all. So what I want to do is to scale it up like that. Yeah, that's not bad. So let's go over here and look at where it is. We're going to turn on x-ray so we can see through it, and we made it way too big. Okay. Oops, I forgot. That's not an issue though. It's not an issue in the slightest. We can just scale it back down. And actually, I want to have these two views open at the same time, so that I can be scaling on this view and looking at the other view, so I can see exactly what I'm dealing with. That's not bad. Okay, so I'm going to turn on my other layer really quick by taking this button, which makes it visible, and you can see I'm off center, which is, it's not a big deal, but we're going to fix it right now. Okay. So already I can see a problem. And that problem is that if you look at this, the peak of my triangle being right here. You know, I might have messed up actually in terms of execution. So if I scale this up more, so I make it there, what does that look like? Because now that I'm looking at it like this, I realize that the face of the triangle ends right here, not right here. So that was my mistake, which means I'm not actually sure what that is. I might have to cut this off right about here and then just take off these faces and convert it into a flat. Whoops. I just messed up. Don't mess up. It's not a good idea. Okay, so I've managed to mess up my layouts, and to fix that, you just click this, and it goes right back to the way it was. I don't know if you noticed, but I had two perspective views, and I did not want that. So, turn on X-ray again. So, I'm thinking... These are definitely two distinct pieces. Like, this is definitely a separate polygon. So what I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to turn off this layer so that the triangle prism is the only one that I'm looking at, and I'm going to switch to edge mode by holding right click, going up to edge. I'm going to shift click on all three edges to multi-select them, and I'm going to use the bevel tool. The bevel tool can be found over here in the modeling toolbox, I think. Yeah, here at the bottom. So here I have two options. I have offset and fractional. Offset lets me change how far I want this to go in, which I actually want it to go pretty far. And then if I click segments over here and then I drag click, it lets me change how many sort of divisions I want this to do. The more divisions, the smoother the circle kind of section will be, but the more polygons you'll have. I want fewer polygons, so I'm going to drag this down quite a bit. That's probably alright. What I might even do is get rid of these bottom faces to sort of save on the polygon count, because I don't think you can actually see them through the main casing mesh. So 4 segments should be fine, so let's look at offset. Let's look at it like this. What we want to do is kind of try and match it to this. And if I really cared, if I were like super picky about this particular piece, what I would do is I would duplicate this reference and I would put it over there so that I could use X-ray in this view and just line it up myself. But I don't care that much because this isn't a huge piece. So I'm thinking this looks pretty close. So I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm going to enter to confirm that change. It's going to switch me back to my scale tool. That's fine. We're going to open up the channel box so that we can see this layer again, and we're going to have a look. So I'm thinking among other things, this is too wide. It needs to be just wide enough to conceal that, right? I'm not sure. The other thing I can do while I'm thinking that through is that I need to make this plate on the front. So to do that, since I already have the shape that I need, I'm just going to hit Control D to duplicate this mesh. I'm going to press W to switch to my move tool, and I'm going to move it out. Switch back to the scale tool with R, and I can just flatten it. So that's about right. Let's go over to the perspective view. Let's have a look. Okay. So, yeah. I can see right now what my problem is, why this isn't looking right. I need to scale this up more. I need to... How about that? That's about right. Scale this out a bit so that it conceals. Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. That's much more space than I had before, so yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay.